Ryan Gravenberch has been the best midfielder in the Premier League this season. Not only is he playing in a new system, he is also playing in a new position, completely excelling and being a key reason why Liverpool are having so much success this season. But just how is he making this Liverpool team better per game, and what is his impact on this team? Well, let's find out. Now, Liverpool this season have been truly amazing, being one of the best teams across the whole of Europe and deservedly are top of the Premier League and dominating in Europe. Now, Ryan Gravenberch is one of the main reasons for it because his transformation has been truly incredible. Now, last season he was definitely a squad player. He only started 12 Premier League games and only played one game for the full 90 minutes, mostly being used in the Europa League until it got tough, in which he was not used when they went out to Atalanta. Now, Liverpool the last few years have had problems in the defensive midfield. They've been trying to buy different players for that position since Fabinho left, and they haven't really been able to lock it down. While I say this, last season they definitely found good usage out of certain players, such as Endo coming in and was fantastic in that role, but they always knew they needed a long-term signing as Endo is getting older for the future. Now, Ryan Gravenberch has really stepped up to be the main six for Liverpool this season, in which he has started every single game for Liverpool in the Premier League and the Champions League, being all 15 and playing 90 minutes in all of them in a defensive midfield position, which he'd only played 30 games in his career before this season. Now, one of the main reasons why this role has worked so well is because it allows him to be good at what he was already good at, being carrying the ball and progressing the team up the pitch, but he also uses his physical stature for good tackling and covering a lot of area, which is very important to Arne Slot's midfield, where all of them can cover as much area as possible. Now, the first reason why he is incredible is definitely because of his key role in build-up play. One of the great examples of how good he is when Liverpool are getting pressed by another team and their centre-backs come wider, is that he always runs into the gap going forward. He's a very progressive, very attacking player in many senses, so instead of coming shorter and deeper like a lot of defensive midfielders would, he actually just pushes into space to get the ball on the run, which he's really great at. This ability to control the ball on the run and continue to run with it or pass it off has created Liverpool to have so many overloads on the right or left side with his movement. But not only that, because he is so good on the half turn, it allows Liverpool to bait people in. When the press is baited and they can get the ball into central areas to Gravenberch, he is very good at doing a dummy or shifting his body away from a player to quickly get past them. And if he is being pressed by one midfielder, if Liverpool have made sure that they overload the wing spaces so the other team will press them, he can get space to run into them central areas to actually push the ball up into more of a central midfield role that he would be much more accustomed with before this season. And these carrying up the pitch is such a good quality to have from any player on your pitch when you're definitely getting pressed from deeper, but to have your defensive midfielder or your deepest midfielder do it gives Liverpool such a great option to break on teams, which is something they still love doing. We have seen Arne Slot not necessarily going for a full pressing system like Jurgen Klopp did, and in some games he's actually been quite passive, where he's actually created a wall and allowed teams to pass it to the wingers instead of letting them pass through. This is because if they do try to pass through, or they have one of their players like Gravenberch covering a lot of ground on the wing positions in them half spaces, if they do win the ball back, the thought is that most of the space will be in the central areas because the other team has shifted all of their focus to the wing. And it allows Gravenberch to be effective when Liverpool don't have the ball, more importantly. Now, he's not been necessarily an out-and-out defensive midfielder like you would see in the normal sense. He has still been very attacking and very high up the pitch. The game against Man United was a brilliant example of McAllister being the one dropping deeper with small interchanges with Diaz and Robertson, while Trent, Salah and Gravenberch on the right-hand side usually go for the more longer passes and are trying to progress the ball and push up the pitch. Obviously, these two are the main real providers and creators for Liverpool, so it makes sense to push him up, but it also allows Gravenberch to come into a space by himself with 2 or 3 players around him, and it is risky, but to give the ball into him in them chances. Now, because Gravenberch is so good on the turn and quickly passing it off to the wing, this makes him very good at doing it, and often he actually moves around in Liverpool's midfield to find space even defensively away from a block, so he can always get the ball or be able to turn and give it to Salah down the wing, who is spreading the play out wide. Now, what makes him so effective in these sort of tight areas in midfield is that even if a team puts players around Gravenberch and tries to stop passes into him, because he is so quick with his feet and so good on the turn, it is quite hard to actually fully stop him. If you're not necessarily firm in the challenge and you don't all help each other, he can just turn you and put the ball out wide, which puts you in a considerable weakness against Liverpool, who are brilliant brilliant in that sort of quick transition. And he also has the attributes that make him a good player that can play in a defensive role, and one of them is how comfortable he is on the ball. Now this season he has been amazing. He has already contributed to 587 passes completed, which is way more than he had last year at 415, and he's got an 88% completion rate, which is actually 6% more than last year, despite competing nearly 200 more than last season. And these aren't all short passes. From medium range passes, which is 15 to 30 yards, he's actually at a 91% completion rate, which puts him in the top few in Europe in that position. And his long passing has also improved a lot at around 59% completion rate, but he's already completed 21 this season, which is over 30 yards, which these are some of the times where he's dropping deeper, giving space to Liverpool's midfield, or teams are trying to sit off Liverpool, and he can just launch it long to people like Salah to get him behind, which gives him yet another facet of attacking. And he is still very effective amongst around the box. He can still run from deep, and he's very confident on the ball going past multiple players, but he's also so great in defensive transitions, something that a lot of big teams have been struggling with this season, which Liverpool don't because of him. He is so good at getting back and making the tackles, or more importantly just getting his body in the way most of the time. Now he actually has less tackles than last season, a bit with around the same minutes, but you have to look at what is going on. Arne Slot plays a little bit more passive than Klopp did. He doesn't want people to keep winning the ball back from high up the pitch. He wants them to stay off it a little bit and wait, and usually only really make tackles in transitions, which makes it perfect for Gravenberch because he's still doing good tackle numbers per game. And if you just look at some of Liverpool's last recent games, against Aston Villa he made 10 defensive actions, 4 recoveries, 4 interceptions, 2 clearances, 2 blocks, while still making 6 passes into the final third and making 3 successful dribbles. And the more he has played, the better he has got, because he's become a lot more confident not only on the ball, but he's also making risks defensively, which are always paying off because he's got such a great awareness at seeing the game. And from the attacking roles that he's had before, that definitely shows in some of the defensive work he does, such as cutting out through balls that go for the other team to get Liverpool straight up on the break. And that is shown by the fact he's already made 21 interceptions this season, which is one of the highest in the league. He's made 63 recoveries, which is the second or third highest in the Premier League. And he's also doing brilliant things like fouls won 22, which is actually a third or fourth most in the Prem as well. So he's really getting the ball back in quick transitions and at least calming the ball down with a foul, or getting Liverpool on the break, which they're probably going to score from. And this is not to mention that he's obviously a very physical person. It works perfectly in the Premier League. He's over 6 foot, he's a big guy, and he wins most of his duels. Now we always hear duels are very important in winning your individual battles. This season he's won 64 duels at a 64% rate, and he's won 84% of his aerial duels, winning 11 of them, which both puts him in some of the top 5% in the Premier League this year, while also winning 70% of his tackles, which puts him even higher as well. There is nothing that this guy clearly can't do. He's got everything about him, and I think all of the times he's developed in different positions have definitely helped him very acclimatized to this system that Slot has put him in, and he deserves a lot of credit as well for getting the best out of Gravenberch. And now with Gravenberch being in the limelight for a long time, you forget that he's actually only 22 years old, so it actually made a lot of sense to kind of develop him in a role where he can use his brilliant abilities that he has, but also get the best out of him in different ways. And I think Arne Slot has done a really good job. He obviously knew him, they're both Dutch, of identifying Gravenberch and the ability that he has to play this different role that also has excelled Liverpool. I think Liverpool this season have looked a lot better than they did widely from last year, and I think it's mostly the reason that they finally have a defensive midfield combination, him and McAllister, which make a lot of sense. And I actually think out of anyone in Liverpool's midfield, which they've all been brilliant recently, Gravenberch has really been the key, I think, for the entire season, and long may it continue. What do you guys think is the potential for this guy in the future? And let me know what you think about Gravenberch overall. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.